everyone, welcome back to our channel Hi-Fi Study for You. Today in this video we will be going to cover the poetic devices which are very important in our grammar part, and that is poetic devices. So firstly, let's begin with what is poetic devices. Now poetic devices are actually the pattern or the beauty of poem, how the storyteller or the narrator narrates the poem. Now, poetic devices are a kind of some patterns which are provided to write a poem. So, we can say these are patterns used to write a poem. That is nothing but poetic devices. Now there are many kinds of poetic devices. Poetic devices deal with comparison. In English, comparison is very important. Comparison between two things provided with poetic devices. Now comparison is of two types. So let's look at the comparison. Now, comparison is of two types, direct comparison and indirect comparison. So, first we have the direct comparison. And second, we have indirect comparison. For direct comparison, we have a kind of poetic device which we can call, that is metaphor. We call it metaphor. When we directly compare two things, we call it metaphor. So that is, in it we have metaphor. And in indirect comparison, we have the simile. Sometimes they also got interchanged. For direct comparison we have simile, and for indirect comparison we have metaphor. Now, what are these terms? So firstly, poetic devices are actually those terms, those terminologies which we use to write a poem. Then we have some comparisons which are of two kinds, direct and indirect. We have for them metaphor and simile. Now, metaphor are those kinds of comparison in which we don't use similes word. Now, similes word. What are similes word? Now, simile is a kind of comparison in which we use certain words, and these certain words are, I will write here. These certain words are like, as, such as, that. These are the words which we use for the comparison on the basis of simile. And I will also give you examples. Firstly, let me rub this all. Okay, firstly, let's take example of both of these. So firstly, if I say the moon is like a cricket ball, let me write it and I will ask you which poetic device has been used. The moon is like a cricket ball. Now, which poetic device has been used? There is an indication, that is like a. Like is a word of simile. It's a simile word. So, simile poetic device has been used here. And if I say a different thing where these kinds of things like, such as, that, had not used, we call it metaphor, right? So that's as the difference between the simile and metaphor. Now we have some other kind of poetic devices as well, which has been used to write the stanzas of the poem. So firstly, let me drop this. So the first poetic device which we have exactly is the alliteration. So the first one is alliteration. Now what is alliteration? Alliteration refers to when in the beginning of the stanza, if repetition of same consonant is taken place, we call it alliteration. There should be repetition of consonants, not vowels. So that is alliteration. So if I write, let's suppose alliteration where the repetition of consonant. Second is assonance. Assonance is where the exactly opposite, where is the repetition of in the beginning of the stanza, where we have the repetition of vowels, we call it assonance. And for consonants, if the repetition has taken place, we call it alliteration, and this is assonance. Third is personification. Personification. Now what is personification? The term indicates person. Now here, person, we all know human beings in this case, okay. Fication, the process. It is a kind of poetic devices which deals with if we give a character of human beings to a non-living things, we call it personification, or we had personified that thing. And if I say like, last night the fan was talking to me, so it is the personification, because we know fan cannot even talk. So that is personification, because we had personified the character of human beings to the non-living things. That is personification. Fourth here is, let me write here, that is symbolism. Symbolism means that when certain word, when certain term has been used instead of its original word, instead of its original means in a different manner. Let me give an example to understand this. So symbolism here, we have example like the road note taken. This is a chapter of English for class 9, the road note taken. Now in this case, road don't refer to the actual road, but in this case road is referring, or road is symbolizing the choice in our life, means how we choose things, how obstacles came in life, and how we tackle in these problems. This is the symbolism. If a word has been used instead of its original meaning to and giving a different meaning to its original meaning, we call it symbolism. That is symbolism. Then we have onomatopoeia. Then fifth here is onomatopoeia. Now onomatopoeia is a poetic device in which deals with sound words. Sound words, if I say dog barks, bell rings, these are the words which have a kind of sound, right? That is nothing but onomatopoeia. If you have a small indication that here is some sound in the word, not sound exactly, means if the meaning of that word refers to a sound, a kind of sound like bees buzzing, patter of rain, right? That is onomatopoeia. That is onomatopoeia. Symbolism, the road note taken, in this case road, symbolizing the choices of life. Personification, we personify something and give the character of human beings. Now in this case, very important note is that in personification, human beings are only included. You can't give the character of an animal to a non-living. That will be not personify, and there will be no personification. Right? If I say the gate was running behind me, so that is personifying the character of gate, because it cannot run. So that is personification. Assonance is using the vowels as the starting of the stanza. Repetition has taken place of the vowels in assonance. And also in both these cases, alliteration and assonance, there can be dominency of consonants and vowels. If we have this, we call it assonance and alliteration. Now taking example of assonance, if we say shoot down on me, this is example in which, now see here, there is O two times here, there is one more O, there is one more O. So we can see there is a dominancy of the letter O, means vowel. Now in this what happens, this is assonance. If you have a dominancy of vowel in a particular line which begins to a stanza, you will say that it is assonance. Second is the alliteration. Alliteration we have if there is a dominancy of consonants, and if there is no dominancy, if you have the repetition in the starting also, you also say it alliteration and assonance. That is the basic difference. Now if we see in alliteration, examples could be like, if I rub this all, I'll take a single alliteration and explain you. So first let's alone see the alliteration. Now in alliteration, if I write examples like chatter chatter, King Kong, these are certain words. There are many more which have certain words which are similar and which are used in the starting of the stanza. And also if you have the repetition, and repetition is also like, we have anaphora. Anaphora is one more poetic device. I hope you understand the alliteration. We have the dominancy or the starting of the consonant. For resonance we have for vowels. Now one more, if I write the third, that is the anaphora. Anaphora. Anaphora is a poetic device in which there is repetition. Repetition always takes place. Now in certain examples, okay. Now anaphora is when repetition of a single letter, a single word in the starting of the poem and again throughout the poem more than 2 times. We call it anaphora. Like if I say just as and by now and to that and then. If I write these words, there in these 3 sentences we have and. I had used and in 3 times. There is repetition of and, so this is anaphora because here is the repetition. Repetition is also different. Repetition is when in a particular poem or in a stanza, if you have particular word which it's not matter, it's starting or not starting. If you have more than 2 times, we call it repetition. That word is the poetic devices, and I want to tell that poetic devices are very important, and also many questions are asked frequently for poetic devices, that which poetic devices has been used here. Now let me give you a question, and that is based on all these 3. Okay, the kind of options these. So that is at all alone. At all alone. Which poetic device has been used here? There are many poetic devices actually. First thing you notice is A, and A. Which poetic device used now? Yes, vowel dominancy means assonance. Next we also have L dominancy. We can also say alliteration. But if you have higher percentage of a particular poetic device and you have options of both, you will take the higher percentage, which means this assonance, because A is more dominance here. Okay, this was the poetic devices, and for watching the video, thanks and bye.